hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous.
Roach, credit to him, all this other stuff. And it took some politics to keep Davis as champion. You ever see guys getting to referee their own fight?
Gervonta Tank Davis is one of the most overrated fighters in the sport of boxing right now. And not because of his skills, but because of his resume. And resume does matter.
Joe Rogan unleashed a brutal takedown of Gervonta Tank Davis on his podcast, questioning the hype surrounding the undefeated champion. Real champions don't take knees when the going gets tough, Rogan argued, referencing Davis's controversial moment against Roach. The UFC commentator suggested Davis has been coddled throughout his career, never truly tested against elite competition. When you watch his fights, you keep waiting for that signature performance against a killer. It never comes, Rogan stated, sparking intense debate across combat sports circles.
You can't get around what everybody saw. Look, it wasn't a legit knockdown like he hurt Tank. Tank did have some in his eyes, but what are you doing putting in your hair when you have a world title fight? That's crazy.
And no one want to hear about it in the middle of a fight. That no one cares. If a fly by, drop the ball, bro.
Right.
Drop the damn ball. We don't care if a fly flew by your helmet or your eyes.
Yeah, nobody gives a fuck about that.
You can't be a championship fighter and taking a knee and putting on those type of performances.
Also, what are they putting in his hair? That when he's sweating it is dripping into his eyes. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Bro, shave your head.
Weird, right? Yeah, exactly.
Shave your head. Who cares?
Like, don't be pretty boy. You better go get this fight.
Get those braids out of there. You don't need those.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking guy. He doesn't need all that crazy braids and shit.
Yeah.
A growing chorus of boxing analysts are calling out Davis's carefully curated resume. Examination of his last 5 opponents reveals a pattern: aging veterans, smaller fighters moving up in weight, and technically limited brawlers. They're building Tank like a video game character on easy mode, noted one prominent boxing writer. This matchmaking strategy has allowed Davis to maintain his terrifying knockout ratio while avoiding the stylistic nightmares that could expose his weaknesses.
Shakur Stevenson would beat him in a close decision, and it would end up probably being a boring fight. But I think Shakur has the skills to beat Tank Davis over a long 12-round fight. Now we have Subriel Matias, who's a scary Terminator-like fighter who gives up the early rounds to come on later and drown you in the later rounds. But he's very stiff and he doesn't have very good footwork at all. I think Tank Davis will probably, box his face off for most of the 12 rounds. There might be some trouble in the late rounds, but if Tank can stay out of trouble, I think this is one of the few champions that he would beat, but I don't think he would fight him. Now we have Pitbull Cruz, who Tank already beat by a close decision, and Tank beat him with a broken hand.
The Shakur Stevenson elephant in the room grows louder each year. Despite both fighters dominating the lightweight division, Davis has repeatedly avoided what many consider his toughest potential matchup. Shockers, the boogeyman Tank's team won't let in the building, claimed a rival promoter. Stevenson's elite footwork and defensive mastery present the exact type of puzzle Davis has yet to solve, making the continued avoidance particularly glaring to hardcore fans.
Cruz only had 2 weeks to prepare for this fight. I think in the rematch, Tank would take a lot more punishment and even has the potential of being beat. If Tank's not perfect for those 12 rounds, I think Pitbull Cruz wins because he's been looking a lot better since their fight and has impressed me very, very much. Now we got Devin Haney. Devin Haney is very impressive. He really has everything. He has the defensive skills, the offensive skills. He's really showing his power and strength at 140 pounds. And even though Tank has the power, right, the only guy to really give Haney trouble is a guy like Lomachenko, a southpaw with really good footwork and boxing skills. Tank Davis is not Lomachenko. So I think Devin Haney beats Gervonta Tank Davis pretty soundly and pretty easily, as long as he doesn't get caught with something crazy. Now we have Teofimo Lopez, the first guy to really beat Lomachenko and look very impressive doing it. Not only has he beat Lomachenko, but he also beat Josh Taylor, the former unified champion. Both very impressive victories, and even though he's been kind of inconsistent and doesn't fight as good when he fights lesser opponents, I think he has all the skills he needs to beat Tank Davis. He has the speed, athleticism, the counters, the blocks, everything you would need to beat Tank, right? So I have Teofimo above Tank as well. if Tank wants to be great, he's going to have to fight one of these guys. And Frank Martin isn't really going to do much for his stock. He's got to beat another champion.
The Lamont Roach fight became Davis's career Rorschach test. Where supporters saw a champion overcoming adversity, critics saw confirmation of their worst suspicions. Roach, a sizable underdog, exposed Davis's difficulty with disciplined technicians who don't fold under pressure. That wasn't an off night, that was a blueprint, argued one trainer, suggesting future opponents now have a roadmap to trouble the supposedly untouchable Davis.
That fight with Tank and Lamont Roach shows y'all how protected Tank has been for the past several years. And the people saying, oh, Tank know Lamont and he disrespected Lamont because they fought in the amateurs. Man, he was cherry picking Lamont, and really thought he was gonna get that win. But Lamont wasn't coming to play around. He stood his ground and fought back. And to be honest, he won the fight. The rematch is gonna be a knockout.
Veteran analyst Tim Smith delivered a scathing indictment after Davis Roach. If Tank's truly P4P material, he steamrolls a guy like Roach. The closer-than-expected decision raised uncomfortable questions about Davis's standing among boxing's elite. Smith pointed out the irony: Davis built his reputation destroying smaller fighters, yet struggled mightily when one finally pushed back. Greatness isn't measured by who you beat, but who you dare to fight, Smith concluded.
Gervonta's a smart dude, bro, and he said you really should have waited.
No, you should have waited. You should have waited for a little bit more time. You stuck your head out there a little too soon.
And he was right. He was absolutely positively right. And so now here we are, him fighting this cat Roach, and I'm like, isn't this dude like junior lightweight?
Super featherweight, moving up to lightweight. Yeah.
No, that bothers me. The reason why that bothers me is because Gervonta is too great and too skilled to be fighting dudes smaller than him. Gervonta Davis can knock out welterweights. He probably could knock out a couple of middleweights. Why are you fighting somebody smaller? Only time I approve great champions fighting smaller guys is when you're not known for your power. You're basically using your superior skill set and showing against a smaller, quicker guy that skills don't.
The prizefighter versus legacy builder debate surrounding Davis grows louder. While his pay-per-view numbers impress, boxing purists argue he's sacrificing historical standing for short-term gains. Floyd made million fighting the rest, quipped one critic. This business-first approach, while financially savvy, risks leaving Davis out of the all-time great conversations that require risky super fights.
I told y'all Gervonta Tank Davis isn't a prize fighter. I know a lot of you guys say, well, he doesn't fight for belts, he doesn't fight for legacy, he fights for money. He's a prize fighter, Jerry. And I'm gonna assume a prize fighter is a guy who is solely making fights based off of cash reward. He'd rather fight a bum for $50 million than fight a guy who's experienced for $10 million. That is what a prize fighter would be. Actual definition, a professional boxer who competes in matches for money prizes. So let's take a look at it. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared he wants to make Tank versus Shakur. He says, my plan for Shakur is this fight. He's referring to Floyd Schofield, then William Zepeda, and then let's see if Tank wants to be in our show. Tank's not going to fight Shakur. He's not going to fight him in Saudi Arabia. Well, now that we've established Tank isn't a prize fighter, because if he was, his career resume would look a whole lot different, then we must ask, what is Tank's goal in boxing? I'll tell you right now, it's easy money. Tank is the type of guy, he'd rather fight, let's say, 4 Lamont Roaches for $20 million than fight 1 Shakur Stevenson for $80 million, which is fine. But I'm tired of people saying, oh, he's a prize fighter. That's why he's not taking these fights. He's not a prize fighter. The biggest money fights is Haney, Ryan, Tio, Shakur, and Loma. He's not even going to take half of those fights. So please, guys, all my Tank fans, all my guys who claim Tank is a prize fighter, that's why he's not fighting for the belts, please stop it. This guy's not a legacy fighter. He's not a prize fighter. He's just a guy who enjoys easy paydays. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Just stop misleading people with your comments.
Boxing's credibility crisis takes center stage as more fans question the sport's integrity. From questionable scorecards to mysteriously avoided matchups, the perception of backroom deals overshadowing true competition grows stronger. We've reached a point where the fix is in before the first bell, lamented one former champion. This environment allows fighters like Davis to maintain carefully constructed reputations without facing their most dangerous tests.
Like boxing's pretty rigged overall.
Oh, yes, rigged, dude. I mean, so many politics, even with, MMA, man, there's so many politics. There's no more art anymore. It's just, let's get an influencer in there. I get it. It's like generating money because our attention span is so short. You look at clips now, it's like 7 seconds. I saw a dude slamming a lady the other day, and they were like, oh my God, that dude is... I'm like, well, what the do? I'm just gonna pick somebody and slam them. Where's the whole video? And our attention span is just so small. So money talks, of course. Yeah, let's get an influencer in there who has no style, but it draws attention. It's just dumb to me.
Rogan doubled down on boxing's corruption issues, suggesting the sport has become a reality show with gloves. His comments about predetermined outcomes resonated with disillusioned fans who've watched promising matchups die in negotiation purgatory. When the money's this big, the competition can't be real, Rogan argued, pointing to Davis's career trajectory as Exhibit A of modern boxing's broken incentive structure.
Boxing is a very effective martial art. Sure, if we make an agreement that I'm not going to pick you up and throw you on the ground, or if we make an agreement I'm not going to kick your legs out from under you. There's a great video of this Russian guy fighting this boxer, and it's a boxing versus Muay Thai fight, and it's hilarious to watch because the guy comes in trying to box and he's just getting his legs destroyed. He never gets a chance to set his feet, and then he gets head kicked and then chopped out, and then this is the end of it. He's like eventually like, what the man? And that guy's not walking for days, by the way.
Legendary trainer Robert Garcia dropped a bombshell analysis of Davis's controversial knee moment, calling it a fighter illegally calling his own timeout. Garcia, known for his no-nonsense approach, broke down the rulebook. Unless it's a low blow or foul, you don't get to press pause in a title fight. His technical breakdown suggests referee Steve Willis committed a cardinal officiating sin by allowing Davis to reset without penalty, potentially altering the fight's outcome.
Should it have been a disqualification?
Look, it could have easily been a disqualification too, or a referee stops contest, because look, there's no way a fighter could take a timeout and go get his, during the round. There's no way a fighter could say, okay, timeout, because he took a knee like a timeout kind of thing, and walked to his corner to wipe his face. That's fucking unheard of and never seen before. There's no way that's legal in boxing. It shouldn't have. When a fighter, we just seen it recently with Espinosa and Rubesis. Rubesis got hit with the right hand, and then he walks back and walks away, and the red right away wiped it off.
That happened with Lara versus Angulo.
Exactly. It's over. It's over. So Tank doing that, took a knee. It should have right away. The ref should have started, counting as a knockdown. But he still walks away to his corner. I'm actually, surprised that the ref didn't call it a knockdown, because he's a really good ref.
Willis is a really good ref.
is a great ref, one of the best in boxing right now, and that was a big mistake. He should have counted as a knockdown. Like I told you, I wouldn't have been surprised if when he walked away, if he would have just waved it up, because that's walking away from the fight. Because of the odds, okay, well, during the break, tell the corners to wipe it up. You can't do that when the fight's going on. There's no way, nothing. You can't do that when the fight's going on. You can't time out, take a knee, and walk away. There's just no way. But it is boxing, and a lot of things happen in boxing.
Joe Rogan amplified the controversy with his trademark bluntness. Since when does boxing have injury timeouts? The podcast host compared the officiating to a corporate contract full of loopholes rather than a legitimate sporting competition. Rogan's comments tapped into widespread fan frustration over perceived superstar privilege, with many believing Davis benefited from the kind of favorable treatment that's eroding boxing's credibility.
One permitted slap of their opponent. If the return strike results in a KO or TKO finish of their opponent, the match is declared a draw. If the return strike has any other result, the match result stands. That's crazy. So you can get KO'd, you get finished, they give you 2 minutes to come back, and if you could knock that guy out, then it's a draw.
They also haven't used the rule yet.
So you go knockout for knockout.
Boy, that rule looks like it's written by lawyers, doesn't it? Doesn't that rule look written by lawyers? So find out what's happening, because I think that we're going to announce something today about Lamont Roach, Gervonta Davis decision on the knockdown.
Showbiz the adult delivered a scathing critique of Davis's preparation, asking, with Calvin Ford in his corner and every resource available, how does a pound-for-pound talent look so ordinary? The analyst highlighted Davis's lack of adjustments against Roach as particularly damning, suggesting either poor game planning or overconfidence, both unforgivable sins at championship level.
You don't know exactly how the fight would have played out if it was ruled a knockdown real time. All right, Gervonta would have definitely changed his approach, and so would Lamont Roach. So you can't really say that everything would have remained the same. So you can't overturn it.
Coach Bernie didn't mince words about Davis's championship mentality, or lack thereof. Roach fought like a hungry challenger, Tank fought like a complacent champion, he observed. This stark contrast in urgency has sparked uncomfortable conversations about whether Davis has lost the fire that made him special, content to coast on reputation rather than dominate.
Exactly. He's the champion. He got to defend his title. He like I said, they both was looking at each other. And then finally, after Tank will be the one to throw the first punch. He felt like he wanted to retain his title. Lamont Roach felt like he was just happy to be there and get the success. He wasn't trying to take the title. And I'm saying that even from the last round, the final 20, 30 seconds of the last round, he wasn't throwing no punches. He looked at him and got caught with a jab. You can't close the show with a guy like that, with a guy like Tank Davis like that. Now, if he'd have had a knockdown or something, like a real knockdown or something, maybe he feeling, but you can't stop until the bell ends. You can't, even if you're being active and slipping and sliding and something, he just standing there looking at him. I don't know. I didn't understand that. I don't understand why fighters sit there and look at each other for a long time. Change the angle, keep a rhythm in your way, snap a jab, do a feint. Ain't no need of you standing there looking at no man for 20 seconds in a fight. That don't make sense. But so I think, like I say, Lamont Roach, he will be kicking himself in the ass that he didn't do more, but grateful that he did enough.
Paulie Malignaggi pulled no punches, alleging Davis remains champion through smoke and mirrors rather than merit. The outspoken analyst pointed to boxing's broken system where marketability often outweighs competitive integrity, allowing fighters like Davis to maintain pristine records against carefully selected opposition.
For me, Tank Davis is fighting a -1600 as your main event odds is crazy to me, dude. That's crazy. That underdog lived up to the hype. He ended up, overperforming. Lamont Roach, credit to him, all this other stuff. And it took some politics to keep Davis as champion. You ever see guys getting the referee their own fight? Dude, anybody else takes that knee, you're getting counted, bro. The referee, actually, his instinct, if you watch that, the referee's instinct was to count. If you notice, Steve Willis started counting, and then he looked at the timekeeper outside the ring, wasn't counting, and he stopped counting. So you get to call your own timeout. Earlier in the fight, if you saw that shoulder barge that Tank did to Roach in the clinch, he didn't get a warning, but Roach's reaction got the warning. This is the politics we're dealing with. You keep doing this, you're looking at short-term money and long-term destruction of a sport.
The Roach fight triggered a seismic shift in public perception. Where once stood an untouchable knockout artist now stands a fighter whose aura has been cracked. Fans are left wondering, if a relatively unknown like Roach could push Davis to the brink, what would happen against elite competition? This existential question now haunts Davis's career narrative.
So the Tank Davis vs. Lamont Roach rematch is being targeted for June 21st in Las Vegas. Now it's good that they're running it back without wasting any time, because Roach absolutely deserves a rematch. I thought he outboxed Tank the last time around. He came up a division as a gigantic 10-1 underdog. He was the one on the front foot, landing his jab, the body shots, the combinations, throwing a lot more volume. I had it 7-5 Roach, and the no knockdown in round 9 was the reason it was a draw. If that knockdown was scored, that would have been a decision for Roach. But with all that being said, I do like Tank a lot more in the rematch. I thought he fought way too much on the back foot in the first fight, especially the first few rounds. He would land 1 or 2 punches per round. But as he started becoming the aggressor in the later rounds, he kept landing a lot more left hands and body shots. So Tank just needs to make this a dogfight, get into more exchanges, and that's where he'll land a lot more punches on Roach. When he's sitting on the back foot waiting for a counter, that's where Roach is comfortable and winning most of the rounds. So if Tank can fight the same way he did against Ryan Garcia, rounds 3 to 7, against Mario Barrios in the later rounds, or Frank Martin round 4 to 8, if he's the one on the front foot, then I do think he'll stop Roach in the rematch.
Davis's rematch avoidance history is under microscope. From Ryan Garcia to now potentially Roach, a pattern emerges of the champion steering clear of repeat dangerous encounters. Critics argue this selective matchmaking reveals a champion more concerned with preserving his zero than proving his greatness.
You will never see that fight happen again. It just will not happen. Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't like hard fights. It's that simple. We've seen it over and over. He fought a Ryan Garcia drained. He fought a very inexperienced Rolly Romero. He will not fight Devin Haney. He will not fight Shakur. He will not fight Pitbull Cruz again. He will not fight Lamar Roach again. He will not fight Tefimo. He will not fight Ino. He will not fight those guys. That's just not who Tank is.
That's our deep dive into boxing's hottest controversy. Will Tank Davis silence doubters or continue fueling criticism?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more exciting videos, make sure to hit the bell icon and stay updated. Subscribe to Boxing Hub now for all the latest in boxing.